San Francisco mayor ships out the homeless. Away you go. And cracks down on encampments. But a homeless advocate is saying, this isn't working. What's the deal? Let's get into it. Here we go. So San Francisco has been on this rampage to just do sweep after sweep after sweep after sweep. And they're coming back every few days and they're sweeping the same areas. And I don't have a problem with that because that is ultimately a deterrent to homelessness. But so many of the folks, not only in San Francisco, but in Seattle, Portland, all these West Coast big cities, in small cities where they've just allowed, go live wherever you want. What's happened is you've got people that are, mentally ill and on drugs oftentimes, and they don't have anywhere else to go. And they don't want to go into treatment and they don't want to go into, an asylum or whatever you want to call it, a mental institution, a mental hospital. They don't want to go there because they just want to keep doing their thing. And so these sweeps, they literally just play whack-a-mole. And we've talked about this a bunch here on this podcast. The fact that you can sweep all day long, but ultimately you're just moving people from one block to the other, or maybe 3 blocks away. They know that they can move. They can carry their stuff, get their shopping carts, get somebody to help them, move their stuff a handful of blocks away, and then they come right back when the sweeps are done. So long term, these sweeps have basically zero impact on reducing the homeless population. You're just kind of shifting them around in a very small locale, because the homeless are not a super mobile population from the standpoint of moving their stuff. You can tell when a sweep has happened in Seattle because all of a sudden in random spots that you're not used to seeing, the homeless, show up with their shopping carts and, piled up with all their worldly possessions. And it's just kind of this weird deal. And you're like, some camp just got swept. They're out of there. And then they'll go back the minute that, there's no more enforcement of the whole sweep thing. So yes, you can have this crackdown on homeless encampments, and that is ongoing and happening. And I do believe in that as a deterrent. But as far as the folks that you've already got there, where are you going to put them? They're not going anywhere. They're human beings, and they're, it's not like you can just, we swept them out. They just left. I don't know where they went. They just went away. You got to have some enforcement. But the problem is you have let this happen for so many years now that these folks are like, I'm just going to continue to live here. And if they sweep me, I just come right back. San Francisco is paying its homeless population to move away, as reported on Friday, August the 24th. The new campaign to address homelessness by Democratic Mayor London Breed reportedly divided the city. Some in the city criticized Breed's new approach to tackling the Bay City's homeless problem. The program pays relocation costs to move homeless individuals to communities where they have family or previous ties. Now, the kicker there is a previous tie could be something as, I've got a tie to that community. I used to live there until my family booted me. And now the family doesn't want that individual back because they're whacked out of their mind on drugs, and the family doesn't want anything to do with them because they've stolen from the family. They've done, whatever, just all that normal stuff, that normal buildup. And then the family has a tough love moment and decides, we're not dealing with you at all anymore because you're a whacked out addict who wants to remain homeless. So you need to go away. You need to go away. So this notion that if you just get somebody on a bus and send them back to their old stomping grounds, that's going to work. Now, you're just shirking responsibility, which is if they're a resident of your city, put them on a bus. The program known as Journey Home, that's the paid busing program. We're going to give you a bus ticket, a little bit of money for food. Away you go. It covers the costs of bus, plane, or train fare and a meal stipend. However, Humboldt County officials, where some of the program relocated, accused San Francisco of failing to follow up on people sent off. The county argues that simply shipping people out of the city does not solve the problem. It does not, but it solves the problem for San Francisco because now they're not on the streets of San Francisco. They're on the streets of wherever they are. So yeah, it's a shift, right? It's just a shift of humanity that doesn't have a long-term solution. It's just, well, this is what we're doing for now because this is something better than nothing. And while I agree with that, it's like, all right, are we just going to be doing homeless, sweeps just forever? Is that what we're going to do? Is that literally our solution? Because from a reality standpoint, what we're doing here makes no sense. No sense. But it's as good as we've got right now. That's all you got, right? We don't need to be a dumping ground, Humboldt County Supervisor Rex Bone said. Our cost for taking care of a homeless person that has nothing up here, it's expensive. Healthcare, food, housing, psychiatric, whatever it is. I mean, just the cost of having fire department run out there all the time when there's a fire, or police. Police get called on 911 calls. Somebody, one of the stories I read yesterday was somebody in downtown Seattle talking about how at 6:00 in the morning, there's a person outside of their condo running throughout the streets, just running around screaming bloody murder. And they're 100% naked. They're just naked. They're having a psychotic event. They're homeless and they're just running around the streets. And that podcast had to do with why are commercial buildings not being constructed in downtown Seattle in these specific neighborhoods? It's weird, right? It's weird. No, it's because people know, well, I don't really want to live here because you've got this population that's not going anywhere that is whacked out of their mind on. Don't want to be here. Don't want to have an office here. Don't want to have retail here. And certainly don't want to construct new homes here. So Breed's office said that the accusations are overblown and contended that San Francisco has only sent 5 people to Humboldt County. Her office said Humboldt County sent 4 people back to San Francisco. So, I mean, if that doesn't kind of tell you what you got going on, it's whack-a-mole, right? Whack. They pop up here and then they pop up there and then they pop up back here. Whack-a-mole with humanity. However, Humboldt County officials claim that its program verifies participants' family, friends, and employment opportunities and conducts follow-ups. Do you really? I mean, I know that these entities need to do that and they should be doing that, but that's going to make all the difference in the world. I don't know. Meanwhile, Breed's spokesperson said that San Francisco contacts family and friends of program participants, but said there is no follow-up requirement. You know what? If somebody says they want a bus ride to Denver or Chicago or DC, I think you just get them that bus ticket and say, all right, I'm going to have somebody escort you onto that bus. They're going to sit with you. And then the minute that bus is ready to go, we're going to let you leave. Because it is far cheaper to fly somebody, put somebody on a bus, put somebody on a train than it is to cover their housing for a month. I mean, we've seen the numbers on that with the illegals coming across the border. And then these big blue sanctuary cities and states are figuring out, wow, this is really expensive. Who knew that taking care of all these people, having babies and doing crazy stuff, who knew that this was going to cost a lot of money? I shouldn't necessarily say crazy stuff for all the folks, but you've certainly had enough crime stories come out of the illegal encampments where you're like, that's not good. Breed's new campaign also forcefully cleared out growing tent encampments across the city since the U.S. Supreme Court ruling granted cities greater power to kick out homeless populations in public areas. Yes, that happened. But, I don't think any of these cities were really just sitting around waiting. All right, when's the Supreme Court going to tell us what to do? It's one more thing. It's one less hurdle that they have to overcome doing these sweeps. They should have never let these people just post up wherever and live homeless anyway. Should have never done that. California should have never allowed this to happen. But you know what? Because of their unlimited compassion for their fellow human being, they're now stuck with a whole bunch of drug addicts killing themselves on the streets, in sidewalks, in alleyways, there's just no other way to say it. So they got to push back with something, and these sweeps are what San Francisco is doing. San Francisco has had a real push to do this, haven't they? There's been a push from the governor down, And the governor has been pushing hard on individual cities saying, hey, if you don't get the homeless situation taken care of, under control, I'm going to cut funding. So it's because California, if homelessness continues the way that it does, it's just a real bad look for Gavin Newsom. It's a real bad look for London Breed. It's a real bad look for Kamala Harris, because they're all San Francisco folks, right? They're all San Francisco folks. In San Francisco, it does not look good. And the crime stories coming out of San Francisco. Yeah. How about the vacancy factor of San Francisco's downtown? How about that? Yeah. I mean, if you're not following those stories, San Francisco has probably the highest vacancy rate of any major metropolitan city in the United States. And, some of that has to do with the whole workplace shift from working in an office downtown to working remotely wherever it is that you are. And a lot of the industry in San Francisco has the ability to work remotely. And so those employers have said, all right, if we don't have to afford really expensive office space in downtown and we can cut our footprint down, we're going to do that. So now you've got a double whammy where there's less people working in San Francisco, but you've got a population of homeless, and you've got open air drug markets, and you've got all that entails, specifically in the Tenderloin. As you've got that ongoing, that doesn't exactly scream out to employers looking for commercial space, hey, rent a building in San Francisco. It's going to be great. You know what I mean? That's not a thing. So this whole deal where London Breed is trying to bust people out, well, only a few are going to accept that opportunity. And the real kicker here in this scenario is the fact that the vast majority of folks get offers of housing, get offers of whatever before they're swept. And they don't want to take it because they understand the drill. It's like, yeah, you're going to get, I'm going to have to go into some massive shelter for a very short period of time because the wait list is so long for tiny homes and, all that other kind of housing. That you don't go from tent to, permanent housing. You got to go through a long process. And the way that the homeless community works, oftentimes those folks, they'll go on a bender and they'll have some kind of, meeting or hearing, and they just can't seem to work it out. People that live from day to day doing drugs, they're not exactly checking in with their person at the regional homeless authority. They're not doing that. So there's all of this shift around and moving around. And then from the municipal side of things, you've got this, well, we're just going to sweep them. We're just going to sweep them. But that is truly just a temporary deal because you're physically just shuffling folks around. It's been just about a month since San Francisco began aggressively sweeping homeless encampments across the city. Jennifer Friedenbach, the executive director of Coalition on Homelessness, advocate for the homeless, said from her vantage point, the sweeps aren't helping anything. And I said at the beginning of this, when there's this big crackdown on it's better than not doing anything, and it is a deterrent, but as far as the solution goes, you're just shuffling folks around. This will not work. And it's because these people aren't going anywhere. And it's not like you can just, we're just going to shuffle them off to the side and then they'll disappear. Their addictions will disappear. Their mental health issues will disappear. And they'll somehow miraculously find housing and then get a job on their own. Now, this whole notion of they'll just put them into housing and that's going to work, that's a real misnomer too. I mean, that is just not how this goes. People need mental health care and they need treatment. So until you can get some of those things really going, and this is in a state, California is upside down $60 billion, $70 billion with their budget. You don't have unlimited millions of dollars going to mental health care treatment. You don't have millions of dollars going, just unlimited money flowing into detox and treatment. You just don't have that. It's really, really just moving people across the street and back, and not being successful in putting large numbers of people into shelter and housing. I don't think you need to put people into shelter and housing from the standpoint of, well, here you go. I know you've been doing out here for 10 years. And I know that you've basically blown all your brain cells you're not really a cognitively functioning human being, but let's just go ahead and put you into your own shelter and we'll just see how this works out. That to me is a terrible plan. You got to get these people the help that they need up front. You got to get them off, or you got to get them into a place where they're mentally, getting the help that they need. But we're just not doing that. That's just not a thing. There's not enough space in detox. There's not enough space in the mental health care. So that's not really going to happen either. So doing the sweeps is really the only option that you have. And how's that going to work out long term? I mean, we're living it. We're literally experiencing it. Yeah. Right. So this homeless advocate goes on to say every 4 days. So this corner of this block right here, and there's never been a lot of encampments there. There's maybe a tent or two, but they come here every 4 days and push everyone out. So they've got a mandate. We're going to keep this area clean. We're going to just sweep people out. So it literally just shifts the homeless population a couple of blocks away. Officials conducting the sweeps do offer services to those living in the tents, but the city has said repeatedly, let me read this again. The city has said repeatedly that a majority deny those services. So the homeless deny the services. Why is that? Because they want to keep doing their thing on the streets. They've got their lifestyle squared away. They love the drugs. They love the freedom. They love the free stuff. So San Francisco, you're stuck with this. Seattle, you're stuck with this. Portland, you're stuck with this. This is the attitude. You have encouraged it. You have let it grow. You've fertilized it, using gardening terms now, and you've created this situation where it's been allowed to flourish. Guess what? It's not going away. It's not going away. You're going to be stuck with it. So all of the citizens that voted for just allow people to live wherever, we're so progressive here. We've got so much progress going on that we believe, letting people just shoot themselves up to kablooey on the sidewalk and killing themselves, that is some real progress for humanity. So, when you come from that kind of vantage point to seeing the sweeps happen, neither one is a good option. Letting your fellow human being die on the streets, die in an encampment, die in a tent from an overdose, that's not compassion. That's just stupidity. And then the whole notion of, well, if we just get them more housing, that's not going to work. Sweeping folks out, that's not going to work. It takes a massive combination of things to get these folks the help that they need. Till we're focused on that, just expect this to keep on going, because the look that San Francisco has, the poop emoji map, those things aren't going away. And so they reflect very poorly on leadership. And you've got some real leadership taking a look at, presidency, and they've been vice president and future presidency. I've got leadership in California looking at doing that. So that is, to me, the real pressure behind what's going on right now, specifically in San Francisco, because San Francisco is the flagship for homelessness in California. I mean, it's just kind of the known quantity. So they want to clean that up. Let's get this cleaned up. Let's get these sweeps going. And what's it going to do? Not much. Just, it's a shuffle. It's something you can point to and say, but we swept that up 45 times in the last 314 days. And how's it looking now? Not good. Yeah, they all came back. Weird, right? Yeah. No, these are not hard things to predict. This is not rocket science, folks. This is humanity. These are, this is dealing with personalities, dealing with people that are addicts, people that have, literally crazy mental issues. And those aren't going to go away just because you sweep somebody somewhere. So make sure you're subscribed, because we're talking about this a lot, because this is an ongoing thing that is not going away. I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for being here. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.